Right, we need to talk about Blackpool. Something strange is going on with one of their attractions. Many of you may have noticed Big Dipper has been in a bit of a weird spot this season. So not that long ago it turned 100. Massive amount of work done to it, fully repainted, the onion or teardrop, whatever you want to call it. That got a kind of glow up. They did some retracking work, first drop, sections out by the hotel, etc. So they were putting a lot of effort into this ride. You know, it's 100 years, they were celebrating it, and that was all great. But something's changed this season, and the park in general is being very, very communicative and transparent compared to previous seasons, but they're surprisingly quiet and tight-lipped about this particular ride. So for those of you that don't know, start this, or just before the season started, when they had this sort of Nickelodeon preview, you could see both trains in the station, right? Obviously every year, all the trains are removed off the rides, they're fully stripped down, they're getting their annual maintenance, and then they're put back onto the track. So 2 trains were spotted, standard. The ride is normally on 2 trains. But when the ride opened, it was only on single train operations. And it wasn't clear, it looked like that train maybe hadn't, I don't know, maybe something had failed in the tests or whatever, and then they'd said, right, back to maintenance shed. At least that was the original thought, or it was my original thought. I did speak to Andy Highgate about it. Funnily enough, he didn't really say very much other than it's complicated. But then it's still on 1 train. Now you can see the second train, it is visible, and what's more bizarre, they have switched the trains around. So it is not that they've got 1 working train and 1 non-functional train, because they've used both of them this season, they just, for some reason, cannot run both trains at the same time. Now there's a lot of stories going around on this one. Allegedly there was an incident last year that might prevent this being 2 trains at the moment. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm not going to go into any details on that one. You either know about it or you could potentially Google it and find out. I am curious though, like, is it that there's now some changes needed to the ride to make it a 2 train operation, right? Take a look at Nickelodeon Streak. Way back before it was Nickelodeon Streak, it used to run 2 trains. Now, it hasn't ran 2 trains for a very, very long time and probably never will, because it would need a significant upgrade to meet modern standards, right? That ride and Big Dipper are both manual braking systems, so you'll see the guy with a big lever pulling it. It's not any kind of computerized system, it's not automated in any shape or form. And potentially that is why Big Dipper is now not able to have 2 trains, even though it did in the past. Maybe there's been some changes to the rules. Maybe there hasn't, I don't know. But one thing that's kind of strange is that the lift hill was slowed down previously. And you may occasionally see, when it was on 2 train operations, you would see a train parked on the lift hill. And that is because if the other train hadn't reached a certain point, they would hold the first train, and then once the second train gets to a certain point, they would continue the journey. Now the thing is, even whilst it's on this single train operations, that lift hill is still crawling. Now they could speed this back up again, it would definitely make a difference, but that is not a ride that runs well on 1 train, right? The queues are massive for it because the dispatches between each train are something ridiculous. Like, you're talking 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's not good. Add to that, for some reason, they've also decided to close the ride during the week, Monday to Friday. So it only operates Saturday and Sunday. Now, that would kind of make some sense if weekdays were quiet. It's currently school trip season in England, and if you've been there, or any theme park right now, you know it's not quiet, it is absolutely heaving. So it's not a capacity thing. The only thing I can think is potentially they've decided to move those staff elsewhere to help. Because whilst this is on 1 train operations, it's going to be painful. It's just unavoidable, like the queues will be massive for it. So maybe they've decided, rather than doing that, let's close the ride during the week and move the staff elsewhere to try and speed up operations on the other rides. I mean, the park hasn't said anything. I did say earlier, the park has been very transparent lately. They aren't saying anything about this one, and I do find that a little bit strange. So I'm curious what's going on with this. Is it that there is some mechanical reason that they cannot operate 2 trains anymore? Is it some regulation changes that now prevent them from running 2 trains? Is it a financial thing? Is it they can't afford the wear and tear on 2 trains? They can't afford the staff for 2 trains? I don't know. But in any case, it's a little bit frustrating. You know, it's a ride that personally, I go on once in a while, and I do enjoy it. I always come off it going, oh, that's better than I remember. Apart from that bit at the hotel where you got absolutely yeeted to the side. It's a good ride. It's not one that I'd want to wait too long for. Like if it's got a 20, maybe 30 minute queue, fine. You get up into the 50 minutes, an hour above that, it's not worth it. For me personally, it's just not worth it. So I'm curious what's going on with this ride, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think the ride is having technical issues? Do you think the park is having issues? We know that they're, struggling financially, but they're being very, very strategic in what they're doing with their money to try and, avoid closure. Let's be fair, right? There's parks up and down the country have closed, and there's always that risk with any park. Maryland's in a bad state right now. We've lost a number of parks around the UK. Personally, I don't want to see Blackpool go. So if they're going to make some tough decisions to stay afloat, fine, Obviously there's a massive investment coming next year with Invictus, and then there's River Caves, and at some point there'll be something replacing Grand Prix. Like, they're obviously trying to be very strategic with what they do with their money. So it could just be a cost-saving exercise, but it's nonetheless a little bit frustrating. And I'd love to know your thoughts down below. I'd also like to know your thoughts on my new studio. You may notice things have kind of flipped around. One of Coaster daughters moved out, so I stole her bedroom. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this one, make sure you hit that like button, and I'll be down in Blackpool next week for the Walk Valhalla, so make sure you're subscribed. I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad. See you in the next one. Adios.